Dear friends, in our journey of multiple topics in ophthalmology, we have come to the ultimate pinnacle of all topics, that is visual pathway. Visual pathway, I've divided to three PPTs, and it is a very exhilarating journey to understand visual pathway. And we'll make an effort to go through the multiple levels of the visual pathway and what are the lesions that affect these levels and what are the characteristic field changes that affect the eye when these lesions occur. So that is the importance of understanding the visual pathway. When we take an overview of the visual pathway, we should understand that nature has eyes in the front of the skull. In the front of the skull, we have the eyes, and the occipital cortex is in the back of the skull. That itself is very funny. The front of the brain has the eyes, and the back of the brain has the cortex. So literally there is a journey of almost the whole skull. The from the uh, place where the light is perceived as an electrical impulse, the impulse has to travel through my optic nerve and cross over in the chiasma. That itself is very interesting. There is a sensory decussation that happens here, then goes as my tract, reaches my lateral geniculate body, and in my lateral geniculate body fans out as a radiation, and that radiation reaches my visual cortex. Visual cortex is area 17 of my brain, the calcarine cortex. It is area 17 of my brain. Area 18 and 19 are visual association areas. We will discuss that in the final slide. Visual association areas. Okay. Now we have understood that there are multiple: the optic nerve, the chiasma, the lateral geniculate body, the optic tract, sorry, optic chiasma, then the optic tract, then the lateral geniculate body, then the optic radiation, which in itself is a big fan, which has multiple parts like the dorsal fibers, the ventral fibers, the Meyer's loop, these things are there. Then the visual cortex. Okay, so these are represented here. Here I have a color code. Can you see there are red fibers, there are blue fibers. I'm using blue for nasal fibers. For all the nasal fibers, we use blue. Why we use? Because it crosses over to the other side. Anything that is nasal crosses over. Temporal fibers, can you see here? Temporal fibers, they don't cross over. They don't cross over. They go on the same side. So nasal fibers cross over, temporal fibers on the same side. This logic shares my optic nerve. So half of my optic nerve, that is nasal fibers, are going to cross over in my chiasma and go to the opposite tract. This is interesting. What is the purpose of this and why nature should do this? We'll try to understand in the subsequent slides. So before going into the visual defects caused by lesions of the multiple levels of the visual pathway, we will spend some time with the light reflex, a very basic reflex. Yes or no? Whenever I shine a light I shine a light in my eye, then that pupil is going to constrict and the other pupil is also going to constrict. So there is direct and consensual light reflex, and this direct and consensual light reflex is equal and simultaneous. It is equal and simultaneous. So how is this? How is that if I shine my light on my right eye, my left eye also is constricting? That we are going to try to understand. So the sensor of the eye, light, the fact that light falls on me is perceived by my second nerve. So my second nerve is my afferent. My afferent is my second nerve. Then these fibers, the afferent fibers, come over and come in the tract. No, the optic nerve, the optic chiasma, then the tract. Once they come to the tract, the fibers just don't go to the lateral geniculate body. They don't go. The remaining part of the tract is going to go to the lateral geniculate body, and from there it's going to become the radiation and then go into the cortex. But this pupillary fibers are going to take off from the optic tract and go to the pretectal nucleus. They go to the pretectal nucleus, and from the pretectal nucleus, they go to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the third nerve complex. So the pretectal nucleus is very important. The pretectal nucleus is very important. From the pretectal nucleus, it is going to go to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. So the center is actually pretectal nucleus. Pretectal nucleus is my center. Okay. Afferent is second cranial nerve, center is pretectal nucleus. Then from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, my parasympathetic fibers start and they run via my third cranial nerve, go to the ciliary ganglion, and in the ciliary ganglion, they take a synapse and go to the pupillary fibers. And those pupillary fibers are going to supply my constrictor pupillae, and my pupil is going to constrict. So my efferent is the parasympathetic fibers of the third cranial nerve. So my third cranial nerve, my parasympathetic fibers of my third cranial nerve are my important fibers of light reflex. Okay, so now we have understood light reflex. Light reflex is an independent reflex of the visual pathway. It only passes with the visual pathway till the optic tract, that to half of the optic tract. In half of the optic tract, it takes a deviation and goes to the pretectal nucleus. From the pretectal nucleus, which is the center, the efferent starts to the communication is given to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the parasympathetic fibers of the third cranial nerve start and they go to the ciliary ganglion, and from the ciliary ganglion supply the sphincter pupillae. So the efferent, and in between the nucleus are second cranial nerve is the afferent, third cranial nerve parasympathetic fibers is the efferent, and pretectal nucleus is the center of the light reflex. Optic nerve is a very unique nerve, which is a very long sympathetic, long sensory nerve and exits the eyeball. It exits the eyeball in the optic disc, runs into the orbit for a distance, reaches the optic canal through the optic foramen, runs in the optic canal where it is most vulnerable to trauma. Any cricket ball injury, you'll have to ask them, is there a canal fracture? If there is an optic canal fracture, then most probably the nerve is disrupted in that canal area. Then it comes to the base of the skull, and in the base of the skull, it goes towards the chiasma and decussates in the chiasma. So in the chiasma, it is going to decussate. So till this, there is a long passage of the optic nerve. So the optic nerve is basically the ganglion cells axon. This point I have to explain to you again. The light is, I told you, 10 layers of the retina. So one of the layers is the layer of rods and cones. The layer of rods and cones is the receptor. This synapses with the next layer, which is the bipolar cell. So my bipolar cell is my first order neuron. It is my first order neuron. Okay. Then from the bipolar cell, I go to the ganglion cell layer. My ganglion cell layer is my second order neuron. Okay. So from the ganglion cell, my nerve starts and runs a long distance like optic nerve, optic chiasma, optic tract, and finally reaches the lateral geniculate body. In the lateral geniculate body, I have the LGB. In the LGB, I have my third order neuron. And from this third order neuron, my further fibers go. That is radiation going towards the cortex. So this is the 3 levels. Okay. Level 1 is bipolar cell. Don't think rod and cone. Rod and cone is just receptor. Don't confuse them as neurons. Bipolar cell is my first order neuron. Ganglion cell is my second order neuron. And my lateral geniculate body is my third order neuron. So these are my 3 orders of neurons. 3 orders of neurons. 3 orders of neurons which are present. 3 orders of neurons which are present. So this is the journey of my optic nerve. So the optic nerve journeys in this fashion. From the optic disc via the orbital length, then the optic foramen, the optic canal, and the optic chiasma. So if at all my optic nerve is affected, what do you think will happen? If my optic nerve is totally affected, okay, what do you think will happen? that eye will become blind. Yes or no? That eye will become blind. That eye will become blind. The other eye will see properly. So see, that eye which is affected is blind. So blind. So this is the right eye. Okay, this is the right eye, and this is the left eye. This is my left eye. So my left eye is totally blind. My right eye is seeing. My right eye is a seeing eye. Okay. So this kind of lesion happens if there is a lesion of my optic nerve. So this optic nerve lesion we can have as lesion level 1. In level 1, I have to teach you the Foster-Kennedy syndrome. What is Foster-Kennedy syndrome? There is a short notes which will ask you 2-mark question, which will ask you what is Foster-Kennedy. Foster-Kennedy is when there is a nerve in my, one of my nerves are affected, that disc atrophies. That disc atrophy. You will presume that there is a sphenoidal meningioma here. There is a sphenoidal meningioma here which is pressing on my nerve. That is the lesion. Because of that, my nerve is going, the disc is showing atrophy here, ipsilateral atrophy. But when the meningioma becomes big, then I will have raised intracranial tension, yes or no? Because this becomes a SOL, a space occupying lesion. So because it becomes a space occupying lesion, I develop raised intracranial tension. That will show as papilledema in my other disc. So my contralateral eye will show papilledema. So a combination where there is ipsilateral atrophy and contralateral papilledema is called Foster-Kennedy syndrome, and it characteristically occurs in optic nerve lesions. Okay, this is the first level of optic nerve, visual pathway lesions. In the subsequent PPT, we will see further levels. Thank you.